bars at the Kgosi Mampuru prison. So the parliamentary inquiry into allegations of corruption and interference in the criminal justice system is facing a conundrum. The committee has basically set up infrastructure in Pretoria, and its MPs traveled all the way from Cape Town to hear the evidence of Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, who is behind bars at the Kgosi Mampuru prison. So MPs have come all the way here from Cape Town to accommodate Ket Matlala because there were concerns raised around his security if he was to be transported from Pretoria to Cape Town. So they decided to come to his home currently, which is the prison. That is why the committee decided to also hear the testimony of other Gauteng-based witnesses today while they're here in the province. Now, Ket Matlala has asked for a postponement through his lawyers. He seems to be getting cold feet, and he wants his appearance before the ad hoc committee this week to be postponed. His lawyers have written a letter saying that he is not prepared for the appearance, and they are requesting additional time. So the lawyers are saying in their letter to the committee chairperson that consulting with Mr. Matlala has become an absolute nightmare in prison. They say, and I quote here, we at times experience difficulties with the network coverage in the CMEX prison, and that the infrastructure in the CMEX prison is not conducive to have a productive consultation as there are no proper facilities, end quote. They also say that the detention of Ket Matlala in the CMEX prison has negatively affected his health and mental capacity. So they're saying his mental capacity is negatively being affected by his incarceration and detention in that CMEX prison. And I wonder if they're not trying to indirectly influence the decision to remove him or move him from the CMEX prison to an ordinary prison. To say, well, if you want him to cooperate and he needs to be prepared, then he needs to be in a conducive environment. I don't know, but anything is possible. The committee has spent so much money and time coming to Pretoria to accommodate his testimony. But then again, is it worth it to force him to testify if he's not prepared? What happens when he can't answer certain questions because he doesn't have information, because he's not adequately prepared? I mean, MPs are going to get frustrated with that. So what's the compromise? His lawyers have said that should they receive no response that is written or a written undertaking from the committee chairperson, Soviet Lekhanyani, by 3 p.m. earlier today, they will proceed with an urgent application to have the proceedings postponed up until such a time that they have properly consulted with Matlala. But the chairperson, as I said that this testimony will continue, and he's going to join us in a moment to explain how. So the question we're asking you tonight is, what do you make of this request by Vusumuzi Ket Matlala's lawyers for a postponement in his testimony before the ad hoc committee, citing health and mental capacity as well as the lack of readiness? And what do you think should be the approach of the committee should Matlala not appear? Do they go ahead and summon him? Do they allow him more time to prepare and they get the testimony from other witnesses in the meantime? Also, do you think it's worth it for the committee to invite Brown Mokgotsi to appear, given how unproductive and weird his testimony was at the Madlanga Commission? Because there appears to be lies after lies. So wouldn't the committee be wasting its time? Or do you think his testimony may be of value to the committee? You can send us a WhatsApp voice note right now on 078-459-1897. Remember to tell us your name and surname and where you're sending the voice note from. Please keep it at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. All right, let's stay with that story now and bring in the chairperson of that ad hoc committee looking at the allegations of corruption in the criminal justice system, Soviet Lekhanyani, who joins us now via Zoom. Mr. Lekhanyani, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
To you, Clement, and your viewers.
You said, as you were wrapping things up earlier on, that the testimony of Ket Matlala is going to continue tomorrow. But this is, even though his lawyers had written to you to say he is not ready, he is not prepared, they're asking for a postponement. Does this suggest that between the time they wrote the letter and when you made the announcement, you've been in touch with them and you've somehow found a compromise?
Look, we just to put the record straight, because we have been talking to Mr. Matlala and his representative for the last 4 weeks. So what is happening now is that we are at a point where they wanted to raise issues with us, and then we have come to an agreement. Unfortunately, things happened the way they did, where you have what can I say, spectators who want to take penalties. If you have a problem of a spectator who wants to take a penalty, you will end up having matters being handled the way they are being handled now. Mr. Matlala and his lawyers have made a commitment that they were going to appear before the committee, and at some point he had to change his lawyers because of the reasons that were known to him. But that did not affect the consultations that were happening between him and us. And we are at a stage where, until we reached a point where we came to Pretoria this week with the understanding that the proceedings were going to happen. That letter was not meant for your consumption, but because you will always have spectators that want to play penalties. They invaded the pitch, and that is how the penalty was played. But but there is nothing lost. We have been able to talk to the witness and his representatives, and that's why we made that announcement that we were proceeding with the hearings tomorrow. They have requested that we start at 11 o'clock tomorrow and 10 o'clock on Thursday. So there must not be any panic.
Okay.
The witness will be with us tomorrow. For sure, you know he's at that venue already. So, there is no difficulty.
Okay. So to be clear then, what compromise were you able to reach? And I'm asking that question because the lawyers seem to be concerned about the amount of time that was given for them to prepare. In that letter, they indicate that his mental health has been impacted by this maximum security prison. They're indicating that even when they were consulting with him, he was not remembering certain things. Are you at all worried about that? Because that can frustrate the process. You don't want the same situation that you had with Cedric Nkabinde, who was unable to say whether it was September or October and had not done enough work to try and make sure that he was ready for that testimony. Are you not worried at all about that?
Look, for now, we don't want to make any observation on the testimony that Mr. Matlala is going to make before the committee. Let's allow him to come tomorrow, present himself, and then together with the legal team, they will lead evidence. And Mr. Nkabinde was told by us that it seems like there are difficulties here. Can we please stop the proceedings here? So as and when we make observations which we think may not be in the interest of the committee's work, we always come to that determination to say, maybe let's take a break, or let's stop the proceedings here and allow the witness and his or her team to go back and reorganize themselves. Even now, the plea that we want to make is that let's cross the river when we come to it.
Okay, got it. What about now the testimonies of other witnesses you wanted to hear from this week? Have you reached an agreement as a committee around, for instance, someone like Julius Mkhwanazi, someone like Brown Mokhotsi as well? There was a debate in the committee this week about whether or not some of these people should be invited to appear before the committee while you're here in Gauteng.
No, I mean, the reason why we had that meeting last night is because with Mr. Matala, we will be fully exhausting the list of all the witnesses that the committee had agreed on. What we do is the committee agrees on a list of witnesses and passes that list to the legal team for consultation. So the list that had previously been agreed upon has been exhausted, and that is basically why we met last night to replenish the list. We agreed on General Dumisani Khumalo, Mr. Brown Mokhotsi, Mr. Julius Mkhwanazi from Ekurhuleni, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan. We also have former Police Commissioner Phathane amongst the names that we have agreed on. So what will happen is that before the end of this week, the legal team would have returned them letters to arrange with them to do consultations. And once consultations have been concluded, the legal team will prepare a timetable which will be presented before the committee for adoption. That will be the timetable of appearances.
Okay, so no decision has been taken yet.
It's not going to be possible to meet with them this week or anytime next week because they still have to sit down with the legal team during the consultations to produce sworn statements. So it's